Good morning, everybody. Shift Your Mindset here with a new episode, and that's the first 2 days of the trial in Norway. It's time for the opening arguments of Watchtower, and day 2 we just had was the time for the state to present the opening arguments. Anders Riesdahl is the lawyer for the Jehovah's Witnesses. You see it in the thumbnail of this video. The man, Anders Riesdahl, is the lawyer of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and we have Kirsten Halsha Arvik as the lawyer, the woman, the lawyer of the state. And Riesdahl, the Jehovah's Witness lawyer, warned immediately the state that they interpreting religious doctrines in a wrong way. He said that he was arguing that they lack theocratical expertise. It's a bold statement from him, because I don't know if the Jehovah's Witnesses know what theological expertise is. Because he criticized the court for basing its conclusions on biblical texts rather than the Jehovah's Witness actual teaching. And that's already one thing that I don't understand of those guys, because he criticized the court for basing its conclusions on biblical texts. I think the whole thing about your religion is to base things on biblical texts, not on teachings. Because the teaching was, you can't have a beard, you can't have pants, you can't do this, you can't do that. And now they're turning it around after 100 years, because there is no biblical text about a brother having a beard or a sister wearing pants, stuff like that. So I think it's a good thing that even a worldly government or state is basing its conclusions on biblical texts. But they rather see it that you do it on the actual teachings. So he is really against the deregistration of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And he emphasizes that exclusion is extended to encourage repentance and reintegration into the community. We know that's their game plan. This fellowshipping, removing, they do it because they want you to repent and come back. That's why they isolate you completely, so you have nowhere to go. So the only thing what's logical for your mind is to go back and get that social attention what you are used to. He also said that the state has not presented any concrete examples of children in Norway suffering from exclusion, from this fellowshipping. And he is undermining immediately the argument that children's rights are being violated. So his argument was also about a 15-year-old that's mature enough to make a lifelong religious commitment. A 15-year-old. I think you rather could take an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old. And that they know that, including the risk of being disfellowshipped. He insists that exclusion is merely a loving arrangement And we know that from the Jehovah's Witnesses, don't we guys? It's a loving arrangement because Jehovah wants you to return and he loves you and blah, 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 and come back to the faith and we'll all be happy. So those who leave must accept the social cost as part of religious freedom. But how about what I hear already for years, that people of 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old are getting baptized? Are they also mature enough to make a lifelong religious commitment? I highly doubt that, because at 11, 12-year-olds, you're only being interested in playing outdoor, do things, obey your parents, stuff like that. I don't think that it's a strong argument from that Watchtower lawyer to say that they mature enough to make a lifelong religious commitment, including the risk of being disfellowshipped. I was 19 years old when I was baptized. I was old for getting baptized in my surroundings. And for years before that, I already felt the pressure to getting baptized, because my friends around me were already baptized. And if you're the only one who's not baptized, there's something wrong with you. You don't believe enough in Jehovah, and all those things you hear from other brothers and sisters. What's wrong with him? Why doesn't he make a choice? Why is he waiting? Does he want to taste the world a little bit more before he commits himself to Jehovah, etc., etc.? So I don't think that someone even at 19 can barely understand long-term consequences. When I was baptized, I never thought about being disfellowshipped. It wasn't in my head, it couldn't happen. But if you're going that way towards disfellowshipping, then a whole new world opens up and you are never prepared for being disfellowshipped, how old you are. Even if you're 35 and you're getting baptized, if you get disfellowshipped, it's a whole new game. And you never are prepared to experience something like that, and knowing on forehand what it's gonna be like if you are getting disfellowshipped. No way. So he was arguing also with the human rights and stuff like that. But he said that it's religious freedom, comes at a cost, blah, 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 blah. So that was the lawyer of the Watchtower. And it was from a source inside. So we get fragments of it to the outdoor world, so we can feel for ourselves what's it gonna be. So the second day was for the state, for the opening arguments, for the lawyer Kristin Arvik. And she doesn't hold back, and luckily she was prepared, she did her homework, and before she gets her chance for her opening arguments, a journalist was turned down many times to interview Jehovah's Witnesses. One couple he managed to interview, and they hope for a favorable outcome for the organization, of course. And it affects them every day, she expressed. And it could complicate the missionary work if the state wins. And now you see how indoctrinated Jehovah's Witnesses are, because it affects our daily life. It affects our everyday lives, they say. Why? You're still recognized as a religion. You only don't get money, and you can't marry in your kingdom hall. What's the big deal? You're still free to go into ministry, you're still free to preach, you're still free to gather around in congregations. How is it affecting your daily life? It's a little bit dramatic, people. If that are the problems of the world you're dealing with and have to face, you have a very tough life. But okay. Jehovah's Witnesses, an insider stated, they pushed to get into the courtroom first like madmen, all the Jehovah's Witnesses, even before the proceedings began. So they do that as a tactic, probably because then the journalists have no room there and they can't expose the arguments of this day, of the arguments of the state. So the Norwegian government attorney, Kristen Arevik, she began her opening arguments by bringing up a video they showed the court last year, 2024, in the trial. Since then, it has been removed from the organization's site. It's titled, "Loyally Uphold to Jehovah's Judgment." It discusses how the organization treats this fellowship people, and you can find that video on XJW websites. I covered it also, that video, in a previous video, that they just deleted the Shunning video. And now we know why. Because this trial in Norway was coming. And they deleted the video, but she still has that video and she showed that video. And the Jehovah's Witnesses, of course, led by that Anders Stray Risdal lawyer, seemed visibly irritated. And of course, he claimed that this video was deleted, has been removed from the organization's website. Was no longer relevant. That's the lawyer term. No relevancy. Nothing is relevant at the moment. So the attorney from the state responded that if Watchtower knew the video was wrong, how could they at the same time make a lawsuit against the Norwegian state for using the video as evidence of something wrong in 2021? And big shout out to the judge, because the judge allowed the video to be played. So this woman was well prepared. She countered the lawyer of the Jehovah's Witnesses quick, with no relevancy, and that it has been removed from the organization's website. Yes, but if it was wrong, this video, how could they at the same time make a lawsuit against the state for using the video as evidence of something wrong in 2021? So they were shut down. And she argued strongly against Jehovah's Witnesses exclusion practices. That members were prevented from freely withdrawing from the religious community without consequences. And she was using Jehovah's Witnesses' own literature, because she cited the September 81 Watchtower that states The Bible shows that no one cannot go to the beach, join in a game, or enjoy a meal with an expelled person. No one who is a Jehovah's Witness would greet such a person. So she emphasized that the government isn't interpreting religious text, but is concerned with real-world impact of exclusion. And that's a good thing. Because she said the state is concerned with how Jehovah's Witnesses treat members who resign or are expelled. How they treat members who resign or are expelled. Not the religious justification for it. Dus that you can say why you justify it to remove someone doesn't care. It's about how you are treated when you are resigned or being expelled. And that's all the pain we are feeling after you're getting removed or disfellowshipped. How they treat us. And it's a thing to be human, to be treated human. I treat also someone as a human being. So you can differ from opinion, but you can still treat someone as another human being, and that's what Jehovah's Witnesses lack, because what is stated, no one who is a Jehovah's Witness would greet such a person. So that's why their concern is how they treat members, and not the technical justification for it in an Elder of the Flock book or some texts in the Bible, some scriptures in the Bible. That's not what the case is about. It's about how they treat people. And that's good, because it is a loving arrangement, they say, but there is no love in that arrangement. Because where is the love in expelling people and never greet a person again over something religious, not private, religious? So she said, we remind you that the state must protect who opt out and do not. If one is in danger of losing family and networks, and if dealing with these is sanctioned. So then they stated an emotional article from Jan, and it is saying, it hurts to disappoint our parents so much that we are no longer their children. Loyal Christian family members do not look for excuses to have contact with a disfellowshipped relative. Their loyalty to Jehovah's organization moves them instead to support the biblical disfellowshipping arrangement. So members of the Jehovah's Witnesses must break contact with family members who are expelled from the congregation. That's the truth. That's a fact. In several articles we write about what it feels like to choose or to leave or to stay in the congregation. Jan in that article is not alone, and if you are dealing with these challenges, know that you are not alone together. Not alone. So then the opening arguments continue. The lawyer of the Jehovah's Witnesses tried to intervene, to interrupt, and attempt to talk over the state's arguments, but they didn't allow him to face them. He argued that the state interfered in religious matters. So the lawyer of the state continues with how they describe their own exclusion practices in official communications. And she was reinforcing the state's case. The state is not concerned with whether there is a biblical principle underlying the restriction of contact, but that the state is concerned with what happens in practice. Many sources and documentary evidence clearly describe it. There's consensus about the practice of Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide, an enforcement to shun. She continues, and that's the most important one of the day for me. Children are not equipped to make such a choice. This practice undermines children's rights by exposing them to the potential of severed family ties if they depart from the faith. And the state believes that this violates the rights to free entry and exit from religious communities, as well as children's rights. And she also refutes the discrimination claims, explaining that other religious groups have also faced funding cuts under the new Religion and Belief Act, enacted in 2021. It's a fairly new law, she said, and we need to see how practice develops. But also other religious communities were cut off their funding. So Jehovah's Witnesses, you are not the only one who are being persecuted. Don't go run around with, oh, they are after us. No, they're not after you. Other religious communities already are cut off from that funding because of that law. And if you have a law as a country, then the one who wants the funding needs to obey to the law. If you don't do that, you get no funding. That's the easy peasy story for me. If you don't want to conform to that law, don't do it, but you can't have funding. You can't have it both ways, Watchtower. That's my conclusion. So at the end of the day, there were some articles released from newspapers who interviewed some people, and what we are concerned about is the bottom line, is the human rights of this group. And day 3 is coming today, and it will be a fun one because it will be the witnesses and cross-examinations. But for me, the tone is set. Watchtower goes against the rights of the human rights, blah, blah, blah. Goes that we can make decisions at 15-year-old, lifelong decisions, and we do it freely, and the baptism is a joyful event, happy, nothing wrong, nothing forced, nothing. No, you're not forced. You decided yourself, yes, but you're forced by the force around you in the congregation. People who yap about you, people who say, oh, I am not baptized already, how old are you? And oh, isn't it the time now for you to get baptized? Friends and family are baptized around you with the same age, you're still not baptized. So no, yes, you do it voluntarily because you made that decision, but no, you're forced in a way because of the group pressure. That's my analysis of that. Then we had the state arguments. They countered it, they interrupted her a lot from the Watchtower. The judge didn't go along with that, shut it down. She showed a video about shunning practices, she cited some articles. So I'm happy, guys, because she's well prepared, she knows her stuff, and she doesn't hold back. So stay tuned for a summary of the next days, because this will be an epic trial, because I think this will set the tone for other countries how to deal with a community or religious belief like Watchtower. So stay tuned, guys. Have a wonderful day and we'll see each other on the next episode.